Welcome to episode 121 of CreatiVity Talking with special guest Ted Haler, a older brother for V after his brother is no more. Ted stepped in and did Mr. V correct. So, Mr. V.
Thank you, Biff. That was very nice. Yes, I have two of the people who helped me through the worst time in my life. My roommate from college, Jason, who's a really, really good friend of mine, and another good friend of mine, Ted Haler. You could say both of these people are brothers of mine. Jason, how are you?
I'm fantastic, brother. How you doing?
Good, good, good. And Jason, this is Mr. Ted Haler.
Ted, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Now, Ted, you have a very interesting story. Do you want to start off on how it came to be that you went to Vietnam?
Yeah, I guess so. That part of the story is just following family tradition. I had military all through my family. I had joined the Navy, and they came in. I was in gunnery school, and a couple of officers came in and said, "Hey, we've got this hotshot new division over in Vietnam. These boats are kind of like John Wayne and the PT boats, but they're smaller. They're jet boats. They're looking for volunteers." And my two buddies and I looked at each other and we raised our hands, not even thinking about it. And that one proceeded on into some months of training. And there was also the training also was boat handling, gunnery, hand grenades, all that kind of the weaponry stuff. And then also went through SEER training, like the SEAL team, go through that. That was pretty rugged. Yeah.
And how long did the training last before you were in theater?
I'm sorry, say again.
How long was that training before they sent you in theater?
Oh, several months. I don't recall off the top of my head. We topped it off with jungle survival school over in the Philippines. We went up in the hills with the Negritos, the leftover Negritos from World War II.
Wow.
And these were Filipinos that fought off the Japanese with rakes, hoes, machetes, and, their hands.
Yeah.
They're just some really rugged guys.
Yeah.
And we went up in the bush with them for a week. And we were allowed knives and no matches. You could take cigarettes, but you had to figure out how to light them without a match. But I'll tell you what, you give me a piece of bamboo and a knife, and I can get you a fire going in less than a minute.
Well, absolutely. My Uncle Bob served in World War II, and he was stationed in the Philippines. He joined the buddy program with my other uncle. And so my Uncle Bob was really unassuming, kind of like a Forrest Gump, not like he wasn't daft. He was just a nice, humble gentleman. Not very loud, very courteous. He didn't get married so he could take care of his mom who was ill, never had kids, this kind of thing. And, he rode, right after or pre-World War II, and then afterwards he used to have an Indian with the stick shift on the side of the tank.
Nice.
And
sure.
Yeah, so he's in the Philippines, and so he's stationed out there, and he needs a cigarette. So he's on watch, and he kind of walks off to have a cigarette. Now, they had problems with people stealing fuel, and they were stealing fuel in the 55-gallon barrels. Hundreds of them just dissing up, and they couldn't figure it out. So he's out there smoking, and he walks into this clearing, and there's all the fuel fenced with the truck that was stolen, and they're loading the thing, and he's just got a side on. He's just having a cigarette. He shouldn't have been there. So he tries to leave because he doesn't want to get involved. He was just going to report it. Well, they saw him, and then they all surrendered to him.
Holy cow.
So he's on break. He's taking a cigarette. He's not supposed to be doing that. He rolls back into camp on the side with his sidearm on his, in his hand, pointing up, and with all the fuel, not all the fuel, but a truck full of fuel, the truck, and then he busted the ring by simply having a cigarette.
Hero of the day.
But something tells me that happens more frequently than we know of,
Yeah.
But go ahead, Ted.
Oh, okay. So anyway, we're up there for a week, and these guys were just amazing. I was a pretty good knife thrower. These guys, if they had a blade on it, they could throw it, and I don't care how good you were, they were better.
Yeah.
And we ate very well. We had stewed monkey, we had fish, all kinds of natural stuff, berries and leaves and stuff. And it was quite an adventure. And these small people, the Filipinos are smaller than us guys.
Yeah.
And they were just tenacious. So anyway, I finished up that. Then they sent me into Vietnam and assigned me to a river section. And my old river section number was 533. I was what's called a plank owner. In other words, one of the original crew members on a PBR number 160. And that was my boat throughout the year that I was there.
Now, did you get injured in this when you were on the boat?
Yeah, I got wounded 3 different times.
So you're a 3-time Purple Heart?
2, because one of them was a CIA mission that didn't exist, so I didn't get wounded.
Oh.
Right. Never happened, right?
Right, and you never had to recoup from that shit either, huh?
No, I went to the hospital for 30 days just for,
Just to hang?
recreation.
Right.
R&R, right?
So how long were you in Vietnam before you were sent home, or did you go back?
Well, actually, I was in Vietnam for a year, but about 9 months into my tour, I volunteered for another tour. But what happened was the Red Cross notified me that my mom was in really bad shape. She had gone in for, a regular surgery, but it went into 5 complicating ones. And so they more or less called me home. And the Navy didn't like it a whole lot. But also back then, when you were wounded twice, you're supposed to go home.
Uh-huh.
But the guys in my outfit, they didn't get to go home because we were special ops guys. And the Navy had spent a lot of money training us.
Right.
So the two wounds didn't apply to us.
Yeah, a lot of people who've never had even family members in the military, they just don't understand that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you hear, like when I was a kid, I'm the only male in 3 generations who didn't serve in the military. I figured they got everyone else. And that enabled me not to go in and be an artist and carefree and a smart ass and all that stuff. But, you listen to their stories and there's just some stuff that's, because today we want to talk about PTSD and that, George Carlin does a whole thing on how it progressed. First you were shell-shocked and then you were, then it changed again and then it changed to PTSD. So, right now, especially with the COOF going on is what I call the pandemic. A lot of people have some, that's triggering some PTSD stuff pretty hard, as well as suicidal thoughts, suicides through the roof. Mental health maybe hopefully finally gets some type of acknowledgement that there's a huge issue that needs to be worked on, and everyone kind of needs to work together to figure this out. A lot of people do not know or understand what PTSD is. It's just another, OCD, ADHD, PTSD, just another thing.
Right.
Can you explain what that actually is to feel it?
No, I don't think I can explain how it is to feel it. It would be like me trying to explain a woman's point of view on how it is to give birth.
Okay,
Right.
that's a good analogy.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very personal. And I didn't even know I had it for the longest time. But my personality had been altered, and I recognized just a little bit of it, but it didn't seem that big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back to shell shock
Yes.
and World War II vets. Why we didn't see more PTSD cases after the war and after the troops came home. There's one principal reason, and that was that they were on troop ships, and they'd be, stuffed like sardines in a can coming home from the front, wherever that front was. And they'd be sitting around, and they didn't know it. But what they were doing was having group therapy.
Okay.
And they'd be talking about their experiences, and somebody was, oh, you felt like that? Oh, that made you feel that way? Or that was their experience? And they felt like they were not alone.
Right.
And they talked themselves through it, not knowing that that's what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then Vietnam, though, I went from a battlefield to Saigon, checked out, and within a couple of days, I'm on a jet going back to the States, and in 24 hours from Vietnam to McGuire Air Force Base,
Mm-hmm.
and then out on the street all by myself. That's a shock.
Right.
And back then,
There never was any downtime there. Yeah.
What's that?
I said, there was never any downtime, right? It was just, from one extreme to another, I guess, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, McGuire Air Force Base, they dumped us off. There weren't even any signs where the bus stops were or anything else. And so I got on the bus into Philadelphia so I could get to the airport so I could fly home. And on the street of Philadelphia, at that point in time, racial tension was really high. And there I am in a white hat and a uniform, just back from Vietnam, been through all the stuff that you go through in war. And I'm on the street now, waiting for a bus, and scared to death.
Yeah.
Because when you're in, the bush, and you're all your senses are tweaked. You're just so hyper alert all the time because that's how you stay alive.
Right.
And so out on the street, with all my senses going wacky, and I was scared because there I am. I could feel all the tension. I didn't know what it was from,
Right.
but it wasn't good. It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, anyway, I go on with life, and like everybody else, you go home, you get married, blah blah blah, and tried a bunch of different careers, and I just didn't fit in anymore.
Yeah.
And when I came back, people would say, "Oh, tell us about Vietnam." And like a dummy, like an innocent dummy, I start to talk and tell them. But a few sentences or paragraph into me telling my story, they turn their backs and walk away one by one. They really didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I clammed up for years. Wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah. And, my dad was a Vietnam vet as well. And, when I was a kid, anytime I would try to bring it up, I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. He really never would tell any stories or go into too much detail about anything,
Yeah.
When you're a kid, at a certain age, you're kind of interested. You'd like to hear something, and he just, he might just skim the top of something, but he wouldn't really, wouldn't tell me too much about it, and might have something to do with it. I don't know,
Yeah. Well, then I go on and get married, divorced a couple of times.
Can't just have one.
No.
Hey, I didn't know the punchline, So anyway, with the love of my life, we wound up being together about 12 years before we split.
And how'd that go? And where did you meet her? Ted? Oh, hold on. I'm going to have to pause a second here.
Did we lose him?
I think so.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you said you were with the love of your life for 12 years.
Right? And one afternoon, she said, let's go for a walk in the park. Oh, sure. So we go sit in the park, and she said, Ted, you've got to get help or I have to leave. What? What are you doing now? I need to get help. I'm going to leave. I said, help about what? He said, Vietnam. I said, why? What? She said, you talk about it all the time. And this is when we were going through the first Gulf War and everything.
Yeah.
And I was ready to, I almost threw an ashtray through the TV set one day. And, it was just, the news was just overwhelming. Yeah, so I didn't want to lose her.
Right.
And I went into one of the vet centers and got off my motorcycle, and I go to put my hand on the doorknob, and it said, let's see, no drugs, no alcohol, no guns. And my hand just started to shake, and I could almost not open the door. And I went inside, and a couple of ladies were there as receptionists, and they had been around the block with this stuff. Because they came over gently, hi, how you doing? Let's sit you down. Would you like a cup of coffee while you're waiting? And they just kind of comforted me. And then I went and saw this counselor and started talking. And it was the first time that something clicked for me. And I was telling him about either about an event or feelings or something. And he said, well, you're not alone. We all feel like that. He was a veteran himself.
Yeah.
And we all feel like that. I said, what? Well, I feel like that. Until all of a sudden, I wasn't alone. And went back several times, but then he unfortunately got burned out. He was in the Battle of Wade, which was really horrendous if you know anything about the war. And he got burned out, and at one point he said to me, yeah, he said, I think it's your childhood. And I looked at him and I said, what in the fuck are you talking about? I don't recall killing anybody when I was a kid. I don't recall anybody dying in my arms as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I walked away because I knew there was no help. And so our relationship went on for a few more years, and then finally she lost hope that things would change, and we parted ways. I still adore her to this day. That's like 20-something years ago. Fine woman, the best.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so my life goes on, and I decided to try to get some help. So I go to the VA, and they put me in a group session, and I had already done a lot of reading and self-examination and so on and so on. And these poor guys, they hadn't left the battlefield. They were still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out of place in the class. I could have been a monitor or something. So I quit that. Well, time goes on, and I go through a couple of doctors, and finally I land one doctor. She stopped me from drugs, stopped me from smoking, stopped me from drinking, and then she got me to get counselor. She sent me over to the emergency room, a psychiatrist. And so, for some reason, the psychiatrist took kindly to me and worked with me. And we tried some of the drugs that are out there for PTSD, different emotional, mental disorders. And they would drink for like 2 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden I'd be in worse shape than before I started taking them. And we went through, I don't know how many different prescriptions, and none of them would work for me. So I had to get that.
And I went in to see her one day, and she said, "Boy, you look pretty chipper." And I go, "Oh, yeah, they just raised my VA benefit 50%. She said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Man, they just raised my benefit 50%. No way." And then she said, "You look at my notes. I've been treating you at 100% ever since you walked through the door." Well, I'm that messed up. She said, "Oh, you got the reasons." Yeah.
Just a couple, huh?
And so she said, "You keep on fighting, and so I go through. I wound up going to federal court. I think it was 3 times. And then they were so overwhelmed, they were finding out to different psychiatrists in different areas of the city. And the first one I go to is this man from India. And he asked me a couple of questions and got me a little riled up. And he boosted me to 35%. Then a couple of months later, after I bought the claim, they sent me down again to that same spot, but a different doctor. This one, I go in, and it's a cubicle, probably, 8 by 8. And this thick Russian accent, she starts, "So, you were in Vietnam, and you were wounded, and this, that, And then she asked me 3 questions that could possibly be considered psychological questions. Do you know what day it is? Do you know who the president is? And do you cook for yourself? The interview took all of 7 or 8 minutes. And so I leave and go home, and that's what got me bumped up to 50%. And I actually fought for my benefits for 7 years before I finally got 100%, and what I should have had for many years.
Yeah.
But that's the way the VA works.
Yeah, that's not a surprise. I've heard many cases very similar,
Right.
Yeah.
Just how for, one example, just look how long it took for them to recognize Agent Orange. And then Gulf War syndrome and, that whole thing. But,
I had cancer from Agent Orange.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. They took out my right kidney, serratus mass, right adrenal gland, and a tumor about the size of a baseball.
Oh, wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I participated in an Agent Orange study that the state of New Jersey sponsored. And they flew us to, from all over the country, flew us into New Jersey, and we met with doctors at Rutgers, and it was quite a sophisticated examination for, I think it took 7 days.
Oh, hold on a second, Ted. You're breaking up there.
Huh?
All right. Repeat again, sir.
Oh, okay. I said, here logistics while I was going through the New Jersey Agent Orange trials, I found out that I was in the most heavily sprayed area during the most heavily sprayed time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
And I can remember sitting there having lunch, eating our sea rations, and if we had pulled up to the bank and were shading under a tall tree, you could hear the Agent Orange hitting the leaves.
Holy
and
shit.
So this stuff was literally raining down on us and into our food and water supply, and that's how my contact is anyway.
Yeah, it just permeated everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 2 of the, I lived at this apartment complex in Hollywood, and 2 of the guys who lived there at the apartment I used to talk to all the time, Vietnam guys, and both were waiting on their, for the settlement to come in from their, because they had finally acknowledged after, so many years that they're, I think it's an issue.
Right. When they did that, the lawsuit that they had hundreds of lawyers.
Right.
And from an inside person. I got at one point I got a paper breaking down the lawyers by name and how much they received for their work on the Agent Orange lawsuit. And then they tell you, okay, if you die from Agent Orange, your family will get like $4,475 or something.
Oh, wow.
If you die from it. And then you look at the payments out to the lawyers, it was in the millions of dollars.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I had a few of my friends, their parents, their fathers died of, the cancer that they got from Agent Orange.
Uh-huh.
And, growing up as a kid, so I was born in 1969. So when I'm, 5, 6, 7, cruising around the neighborhood like you used to be able to do, and you would see the effects sometimes in people's front yards, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And still to this day, there's still a lack of mental health care, just all around, not to mention for the military men and women who serve. And how many are coming back from overseas with, traumatic brain injuries that are going, what is it that they say up to 80%? It all needs to be treated. And what people don't understand, when you become disabled or you're breaking down because of something, they all, part of that care of making yourself better 100% all the way around, you got to get your mind straight, or at least not as crooked, and
Yeah, I mean, is it getting better now with the vets that are coming back? I mean, like in recent times, or is it still a little?
Well, let me put it this way: when I was first being treated, first time I went in was in 1979. I was living in New York City. My doctor looked like he was an 80-year-old man, and I told him about my wounds and everything. And he looked at me and says, "Well, they'll probably give you 10% for your tinnitus. Nothing for the hearing loss, just for the tinnitus. And but we don't pay for scars." He says, "I don't talk about scars."
Yeah.
And it's just they drove you away by denying.
Yeah.
And they would make you prove, like you in Vietnam, make you prove you got wounded. All this stuff. And they had all the records.
Right.
And what we had to do at the time was send up I can't remember which state it was. It's something like Michigan or one of those states up in that area. And we'd have to get our records from them and then take the records to the VA. And then they had to go through their song and dance before they approved anything. And most of the time, they'd say, "Oh, that's not enough. Go back and get more."
Right.
And what it was designed to defeat the veteran so that he wouldn't add to the budget.
Correct.
And the VA that I went to in Los Angeles, out in Westwood, years ago, they actually had a vet come and drive through the main lobby in his Jeep, drive through the doors, jump out of the Jeep, and he shot every president's picture off the wall. So that's the kind of frustration.
Right.
And then going on back in the early 80s, you go in and you talk to, you'd be in line. There's always lines where you went. And you talk to somebody sitting behind the desk, and they, tell you where to go. And they were some really non-caring civilians working in a government job. And they would get so rude at times and so nasty, fist fights would break out. And if the vets would actually jump over the desk and start punching them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And if that didn't happen, then they'd send you down to records. And records would pull the appropriate files from whatever clinic you're supposed to go to. Then you had to hand carry these paper documents into that clinic. Then once you went through and they added on to the records, they'd send them back to the records. You didn't have to take them back. But you had to go through all these songs and dances, just to get a toothache taken care of.
Right.
that was also very defeating.
Yeah.
And it's humiliating.
Right.
Maybe some part of your country maybe got wounded, maybe lost an arm, a leg.
Right, and it's always easier to make someone feel heavier when they're already struggling to carry the weight in their head. So I had a company for years here, and we outfitted people's homes once they became paraplegic, quadriplegic, end-of-life issues. We worked with the VA, we worked Medicare, Medicaid, a lot of gunshot victims. So a lot of people who don't have, who are not flush with cash, And so every time, here's what I'd do. I'm like, okay, here's what's going on, da-da-da-da. Because I would meet with them and I would explain, here's what you can do. Now, I didn't get paid for this part. This is how it works. So what they're going to do is they're going to kick it back the first time because that's what they do. Because most people give up after they kick it back. So they're going to kick it back once, expect it. Now, when we go back the second time, I already have a letter written, and here's the policy. The government policy number, and here's the key words that you need in order for them to push it next to the next round. And because you're mom and you're advocating for your child, even though there's something cheaper available for your son or daughter, this one's better and will last longer. And also, by the way, they don't tell you, but you have XYZ amount of money to spend every year for your disability care. So what we're going to do here is we're going to plan 5 years ahead, and we're going to start implementing stuff 5 years ahead of whatever the situation is. Sometimes you could do that. Sometimes with MS you couldn't because you can wake up one morning and you can't walk. But there's other situations where you can plan ahead and have the stuff done ahead of time rather than reactionary. And then putting the crappiest thing in that breaks, that doesn't work, stresses everyone out. But people don't know that the first time, they always kick it back, just like with insurance. If they say no, fuck you, you pay them. You write enough letters and get enough people in that line, you can make it happen. But they're not in business really to help you. They are, but their job is to block you right away. And most
so
people
they're worried about the bottom line, right?
Well, yeah, because being disabled is a full-time job.
Yeah.
If you're seriously disabled and you're going through something, it's a full-time job between therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, doctor's appointments, this, that, and the other. Maybe you can't work now because you can't lift the weight or whatever it is. You can't walk. It's this multi-tiered thing, and it's literally all-consuming. So people don't really understand, like, the stress of, people are like, oh, look at these guys just sitting at home disabled. Like, dude, they're not sitting at home. You know what I'm saying? That's a real frustrating part that a lot of people don't know. Or because they have insurance, they just, you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain thing, oh, it's the disabled or the,
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Hey, Ted. We lost Ted again? Hold on a second. All right. He's on a boat, so hold on a second, guys. So I don't know where you dropped out, but I was just explaining the frustration of, basically if you're disabled, it's a full-time job. People don't understand that who have better care, or elite care, quote unquote. They don't understand the frustrations of it and what they actually have coming. So doing this planning ahead, kind of changed. And it was weird when I came out here and I started doing this. There wasn't really a job description for it. So I'm an accessibility consultant. So that, boom, all of a sudden, now that's a thing. And people would wonder, like, how are you getting into everywhere? I'm like, well, you guys don't even treat people like humans. It's just a case. It's not a case. Every time when I talk to someone, if they're in a wheelchair, I bend down. I get below their eye line. I'm never above theirs. And it's a respect thing, and they didn't have that in there. I also wanted to try to involve some style and stuff, but now, it's kind of cool to see because we were big fast, and then we got crushed from the hospitals. Long story, but whatever. But that's what we were doing, and now it's the model all across, the state and elsewhere. So, whatever. but people don't really understand what it is to go through a disability and try to, and then if it's another, then it keeps on compounding, and Ted is like Jason or like Freddy Krueger as far as like he keeps on getting up, like you got hit by a frickin' truck not too long ago, Ted.
Yeah, I did.
Was that 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah, it was a double compound fracture in my left leg. My foot was literally dangling by muscle and skin.
Wow.
And yeah, it was. I almost lost my foot. I was really lucky. They took me to Cedar Sinai, and I had one of the top 5 surgeons in the country.
Yeah.
The lower extremity, and they saved my foot. So yeah, I was a lucky guy.
Were you crossing the street or something? I mean, how did that happen?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering how that happened. Were you like crossing the street and somebody?
No, I was on my motorcycle on my way to work, and I pull up to a traffic light. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden my handlebars shook. And I said, what? I looked over to my left. I was looking at the top of the wheel well of a Peterbilt dump truck.
Oh, wow.
Loaded with, and just at that point, I looked down to see where the tire in my foot was. About a second and a half too late, because front tire rolled up on my foot.
Oh, wow.
And so I started beating on the fender.
Yeah.
And the guy's music was so loud he didn't hear it. And the pedestrian jumped up on the guy's running board, beat on his window, and told him to roll back. If he would have rolled back straight, I might have had a broken toe or two. But he didn't. He turned the wheel.
Oh,
with
shit.
one foot until my bones, one went out one side of my leg, one went out, the tibia went out one side, the fibula went out the other side.
Oh,
And
man.
Balancing the bike on my right foot. And it was pretty ugly, and it was something to look at, I'll tell you.
That's awful.
I had to shut the engine off and lay the bike down, but when I did, I had to lay it on top of my right leg.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And
I wiggled out from underneath the bike, and the guy that jumped on the truck, he said, "Don't look at your foot." I said, "I already did."
right.
And there was quite a crowd there looking at my foot hanging off. So I just waited for the ambulance. And,
Yikes.
Nothing else I got to do. I had them take my computer out of the saddlebag and roll the bike up and lock it on the sidewalk. And I called my office. I said, "I don't think I'm going to be in today."
Yeah. And, like a lot of guys listen to this podcast, and because, guys have a darker sense of humor, tends to be that
Yeah.
way. All the guys are thinking, what about the bike?
Oh, hey, guys.
Was the bike okay?
Absolutely. I laid it down top for myself on purpose.
Gotcha.
I didn't want to scratch it. Yeah.
Nice.
And then had some pedestrians stand it up and roll it up on the sidewalk and lock it for me. And then they take me away in the ambulance. And this ambulance had absolutely zero shock absorbers.
Oh, of course.
Holy crap.
Right.
Now,
Uh-huh.
and about now, man, I'll tell you, it wasn't my first ride in an ambulance, but this was one of the more memorable ones.
Right.
Right.
Now, Ted, you also were a prop. You were also a prop guy for a long time.
Oh yeah, I built sets and props, and did some acting and modeling and all that stuff. It's Hollywood.
Yeah. Now let me. Okay, so I did props. I was a special effects guy, and sometimes they mix. The prop guys are working with the special effects guys, or vice versa. And you're working with. Go ahead.
I said I had done a few special effects.
Yeah, so I was, for mostly like 10 years I was basically a special effects guy, but I worked in, recently there's been something in the headlines. What are your thoughts? Because you hear a lot of people who have never been on a set, don't know what the protocols are for, handling firearms, and there's a certain and like when that happened, I got so incensed because that should never happen. So what were your thoughts on that? Because there's obviously the protocols all across the board. And in my opinion, yes, there is failures in every step of the way. Alec Baldwin's also a producer, but Alec Baldwin has worked with firearms many times. And this has nothing to do with, I think he's a great actor. I think he's a funny comedic actor. So it's not like a political thing with me. You know what I mean? I don't like the way he treats women, but that's besides the point. The bottom line is, in my opinion, he pointed the gun at a human being and pulled the trigger.
Right.
And that's rule number one. Doesn't matter who it is. In my opinion, that's what really just, not all the failures, but the fact that that happened.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to jump in on that one. You're talking about, he was rehearsing a POV, a point of view.
Yeah.
And there are times when you are aiming right at the camera.
Sure.
Or right next to the camera.
Right.
Because that's the shot that they want.
Correct.
So I don't fault him for that.
Right.
But I've been on, I knew years ago, I knew a young actor who was on the set with John Hexum. The day that John Hexum killed himself with a blank.
Yeah. I used to watch that show when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, the young kid that was the little young star, I used to know him.
Mm-hmm.
And we would talk about it. Anyway, I have also been on set where I had a gun.
Yeah.
More than once. And I'd go to the prop master, we'd go to the weapons guy, they'd check the gun, they'd hand me the gun. If it was a 6-shot, I'd check it, make sure that, the firing, the primers had all been punched.
Right.
But then I'd go and I'd click off all 6
yeah.
papers. But there's no way that anything was going to happen in case I had to point the gun at somebody.
Correct.
And I did have to point the gun at an A-list actor, right, and at close range within, 2 feet.
Okay, so you couldn't really cheat that shot. You couldn't cheat the angle on that one.
What's that? I'm sorry?
You couldn't cheat the angle on that one because it was too close.
Right, exactly. And it was a big budget movie. And like I said, A-list actors. And I had to pull it on it and point it right at him. And you actually pointed at his head. And my dialogue was, oops, like you made a mistake kind of thing. And we went into our dialogue. But before every take, regardless of how many takes we took,
mm-hmm.
I'd go through the same procedure each time.
Right.
Now, here's your scenario with Baldwin. I think that he was the last in the chain of command. He should have examined the gun.
Correct.
He should have fired off all 5 or 6 chambers away from everybody. So if there was something that, slipped by, he'd be shooting the dirt instead of a person.
Right. Because when I would... Go ahead.
I thought him
right.
being the last one in line because he didn't check.
Yeah, and no one wants anyone to get hurt on set. We're doing pretend here. We're entertaining people. And
right.
My procedure, I'd go, "Hey Ted, what's going on? Okay, so today you're going to be using a Smith & Wesson 357. Here's the da-da-da. Show you, here's, I'd open up the chamber and I would hold it after each shot, I would unload it. If there were blanks in there and you were firing off, side to the camera and you're shooting blanks, tow, 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 tow. Then I would come in, say cut, and I would take the gun, I'd empty it, I'd show you it's empty. I would hold on to it, and then when you got to the next time you're doing the take, I would load it in front of you, explain to you what's going in there, click it and hand the gun to you, then you inspect it. There's a certain, so the fact that it just happened in the first place is just mind-blowing. And a lot of people who don't work in movies don't understand that. People are like, oh, it happens all the time. No, it doesn't.
Well, and there were multiple issues right on that set.
Because we take it seriously. A lot of you can die in a film set pretty easily. There's a lot going on. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on there. Like we had a guy who was working on from our shop. He was working on. It was the Hulk Hogan nanny movie, whatever that was. And the gag was there's a trap door in the floor. So he goes on stage, and he goes before anyone's there, and he's testing it, and he doesn't have anyone with him. That was mistake number one. He should have had someone with him. Two, you're supposed to use sandbags on the trap door. Okay, the guy, Hulk Hogan's 280, so we'll put 300 pounds on there. Test the trapdoor. He went to the trapdoor and bounced on it and it opened. And so he was in a coma for like 2 weeks and then he passed away. But that's how easy it is to get hurt on a film set. People don't understand. There's a lot of shit going on. You know what I mean?
You get a crew of like 100 people, all with different jobs, all with their focus on their job.
Right.
Because it's costing literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute at times.
Yeah.
And you have to stay focused. You have to be creative. You have to do whatever is required, but you have to do it safely.
Right.
And some people don't understand the safety part of it.
Yeah, like one time we're out in the middle of the desert and we're doing working with Tony Kaye, who directed American History X, U2 Rattle and Hum. So we're doing this like 3-minute Volvo commercial, so we build this largest tornado rig. So it's a 50-foot, it actually has a 50-foot tornado that it creates, a vortex, 50-foot vortex. So we're doing this commercial, da-da-da-da-da. The shot, we bought this drug repo home in the desert that we could blow up like a tornado hits it. So it's rigged to blow up. It starts raining in the middle of the desert, right out Victorville, right outside of Edwards, and it rains 3 times a year, and the director's screaming at my boss, "Hey, you fucking cunt, fucking do it, fucking," and like no, when you have explosives going on, it's the director's not in charge. That's the effects lead. No one, he's not in charge. You know what I mean? Because they have the power to shut it down. People could die, and so the generator was sitting.
You're breaking up a lot, buddy.
Oh, okay. All right. So the generator is sitting in. It's the desert. There wasn't a puddle there before. So the generator, all of a sudden, it rains really quick. The generator is sitting in water, and the director's screaming at my boss. Rattles my boss. He plugs it in, creates a ground loop, and the house blows up. I mean,
damn.
That's how easy it is to, things to go south. Ted, you there? All right, hold on. Let's get him back. Right? Damn it.
Anyway, on that film I was talking about, that it was a big fucking movie. I'm trying to think who wrote it. It was the guy that did Titanic.
Oh, Cameron. James Cameron. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was his film. He wrote it.
I was shooting a Rolling Stones video down the street from you guys working on that scene, one of the scenes that you're in that movie. We were literally shooting on the same street that night.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because we knew it was going on, Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we do a take, and Catherine Bigelow was the director.
Yes.
And she was lovely to work with. I'm sitting there with the lead of the show, right? You know, and after each take, she'd walk us back to the monitor. We'd stand there together looking at the monitor, and then she'd give us both notes.
Yeah.
Sometimes she didn't give me notes. Sometimes she didn't give him notes. And then we go back and we do the scene again. But we're walking back one time, and I don't know if it was after the final take or not, and he said, let me take a look at that gun. So I handed it to him. I said, be careful with it. I said, you know, and he puts it up to his head like he's going to pretend.
Oy, oy, oy.
Well, I grabbed him, and I almost broke his damn arm.
You got it.
In a loud voice, I don't you ever fucking do that again.
Right.
This is in front of the entire cast and crew.
Right.
And it shocked him. And I got the gun over to the prop master, and I thought about it for a minute, and I said, geez, the lead of the show, I just embarrassed him in front of the cast and crew. So I went up to him, and said, if you like, I said, I'll apologize in front of the cast and crew for you because I didn't mean to embarrass you. And then I told him the John Hexum story.
Yeah.
And he goes, you have nothing to apologize. Thank you for what you did.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Did that happen to be Mr. Ray Fiennes?
What's that?
That was Ray Fiennes. Said, did that happen to be Ray Fiennes? Isn't that the lead actor in that one? Or you want
I didn't say that.
Right, I know you didn't say that. I'm just speculating on a hypothetical guess. But
Well, you're pretty good you speculate. If you were shooting down the street, you know who the fuck it was.
Hey, you know, yeah. So we were shooting a Rolling Stones video with the Scotts Brothers company, and they wanted to use the same buildings that had the arches, and that was the one where the Rolling Stones or Giants, like, you know.
Was that the Babylon album?
You know, I'm not really a big Stones fan. It was the one where they're walking like giants, and it's in black and white, and they're walking through L.A. and New York, and they're like giants.
I worked on the Stones album. I believe it's called Babylon. We worked at the bakery downtown for one of the setups, and it was just dark and dirty and nasty. And then we worked at I can't remember the name of the motel, the one with the bananas as you're going up not Highland, when you're getting on the freeway and
Okay.
on the 101 North.
Yeah.
You know, the one that it'll be on the left side of the road as you're heading up north.
Yeah, the one that's in like a bunch of like shitty heist films or you know, genre heist films.
That could be. Yeah, and we did a thing in the swimming pool, and I think it was, I don't know if it was Mick or an extra. What we did is we had built a platform underneath that you couldn't see underneath the surface of the water. And we had plexiglass, and it was like about an inch under the water.
Yeah.
And this person would appear to be walking on water.
Right.
Was the guy.
Yeah, plexiglass or Lexan. We used to use both for that kind of thing. Those are always cool shots. Oh, getting back to I want to tell a quick story about prop gun. So the shot that we're doing, we're only there for like a day. So we're in on this, you know, B movie. We're there for a day and it has to be done. So it's like a mob boss and there's a guy, you know, at a pool, and the shot is the guy pulls out a gun, shoots the guy in the back of the head. And it's supposed to splat, you know. And so we packed like, you know, ground beef. We put some pineapple in there, oatmeal, just some crap in there. Pack it around the explosive charge, and we had a plate that was on the back of the guy's head that would, you know, protect him from any impact. So
Right.
yeah, so we have this thing set up, and the director's like, so here's the go. You ready? Yeah, everything's ready to go. Okay, boom. Rolling and action. And fire. The guy shoots the blank off to the side, and we detonate the squib, and the director threw up. It was like this fast.
Yeah.
He's like, too real. Too real.
Too real.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Dude,
Okay.
Too good.
Well,
Yeah, so we just
the
went.
thing that's interesting is now is, and then most people don't know, is now they're not using real blanks on most sets. They're using a flash out of the gun,
Right.
out of the barrel,
Correct.
and then they add the sound in post.
Yeah, akin to a
when they're
paintball
editing
gun,
film.
in theory.
Pardon me?
Akin to like a paintball gun.
No, it looks like a real gun. But
Right. But
flash
like,
comes out.
yeah, like for instance, so like, okay, so doing this one time, Sylvester Stallone's running down an alley, and it's a brick alley, and I have to run with him and shoot dust, dust, spark, dust, dust, spark, dust, dust, spark. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a firearm that, maybe I didn't, address that. It's not, it looks like a gun, but it's not a gun.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people, who aren't on scene, they have firearms like in World War II movies and everything. People don't know those are
Right.
just, molded plastic and painted,
Right.
But I don't know why there was live rounds on that set anyway. I mean, that's just bizarre to me.
Yeah, they should not have had live rounds there, period.
Right.
And like, hey, you're in the desert, you want to go shoot at some cactus or something like that. So those rounds should have been in a locked container,
Right.
nowhere near the set.
Yeah, in its own
Back in
box.
the prop truck someplace.
Right.
Yeah, under lock and key, and then brought out and account for each round that comes out of the locked box.
Right.
And yeah. Because I've been on sets out in the desert and stuff, and guys would bring I brought my own handgun out,
Sure.
but it nobody ever twirled it, nobody ever pretended to shoot it, nobody ever put it up to their face or their head,
Yeah.
pointed at anybody.
Yeah, one of someone I know, her brother passed away that way. He had just become a police officer, and he twirled his gun, and it went off.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are
So-
skilled who do that kind of thing, but it's not with live rounds,
No, well, even like in Vietnam, I lost one of my very dear friends, drinking buddies, because a new guy came over and he put an M16 up on the canvas of the boat, the roof of the boat. My buddy walks by, a wake comes, hits the boat, the M16 slides off the deck, the canvas, and hits butt first on the dock. And the guy didn't have the safety on.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And so it literally went right through his... It was weird how it happened. It went through his fucking jaw.
Oh,
The top of his head off.
Damn.
Yeah.
yikes.
And they had to take the kid, the boot that made the mistakes, they had to literally rush him off the base because one of our other guys would have killed him.
Right.
Yeah. So, Ted, how did you end up in Hollywood working on movies? I mean, between the time you came home and ended up there doing that kind of work.
Well, I was living up in Rhode Island, had a business and a wife, and the family pulled a fast one on me, and because I had just sold a bunch of family stock, and they, the daughter and the mother and father planned this out. They went and emptied the bank account out.
Oh,
wow.
shit.
Yeah. So I went to New York. My family lived in New York and in the city. And I get there, and after I had been there a couple of days, my mom says, "Okay, well, what are you going to do for a job?" I said, "What do you mean, a job? I own businesses." She said, "What business do you own now?" She said, "Yeah, so go get a job." And I think I was about want to say 30. And so I said, what am I going to do here? She says, go be a waiter. I said, a waiter? Come on. Waiters, they're for sale. I buy them and sell them. He said, really? How much money you got in your pocket right now? You ain't buying and selling anybody. He said, go out and work. So I get a job as a waiter. And I moved to another restaurant, got a job there. And I liked the restaurant and everything, and it was a fun place to work. And the waiters were they had an energy about them.
Yeah, I love being a waiter, man. I loved it.
Yeah, it's like, what's this energy about? And they were all performers.
Yeah.
In one thing or another. And I was, kind of interesting. I really liked this creative juice. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And so I asked them, what do you... And they said, well, and they tell me about, going to classes and auditions and looking for agents and all that stuff. And I thought to them, they'd be talking, I missed this callback, or my agent did this, or blah, 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 that. I thought to myself, shit, if I can get around the negative part of it, I could do this.
Right.
So I wound up in an acting class. The acting coach was pretty well known. The studio was in Carnegie Hall.
Nice.
And he was a Korean War vet, and he had been wounded and almost died on the battlefield. So we had a simpatico.
Right.
And he took me up the wing, and I was the only person at the time, I don't know if it's changed since, but that he allowed to study every day. And he was incredible. He had modified Meisner's method. And so anyway, that's going on. During that time, I've become a captain at Tavern on the Green. And during that period of my time, I meet this film crew, director, producers, writers from an ongoing TV series. And they sit at my table on brunch on Sundays. They fly out from the West Coast just for something to do. And they pick up the stewardesses or whoever, and they bring all these girls in with them. And they sit down and they'd order, 2 or 3 bottles of red, 2 or 3 bottles of white, open the wines, let them breathe. Meantime, we'll have a cocktail. I'm thinking, oh boy, this is going to be a good gig. So they have a very bawdy sense of humor, which was right up my alley. And I did all kinds of crazy stuff. The first thing I did to test the waters is on my way to work one Sunday when I knew they were going to be there, I got these little toys, wind-up frogs and fish that you can, tiny things. I'd stick them in the Bloody Marys and hand them the glass, and there'd be a fucking frog swimming around the glass. And things would they'd carry on. And so then I started they'd order a dessert. And what I would do is I'd go into the kitchen and I'd have I'd have the chef take and carve a leek in the shape of a penis. Put it on one of a tray that I put a dome cover on.
Yeah.
And then put vanilla or chocolate ice cream for.
Right. Oh, we lose him?
Oh, man.
Hold on.
Yes.
What are the odds of that? You get cut off right as about you're telling the cum story.
So anyway, parsley for pubic hair, and then a little whipped cream comes out at the end of the leek. Take that out to the table and get a big reveal, taking the cover off of the tray. And the worst one was, no, that's not the worst one. I had them carve up a leek, and we used to give the kids balloons on Sundays and Saturdays at brunch. And so I tied about 5 helium balloons, and and I floated a huge penis over their table. And the worst one was, though, I had done another dessert one up and brought it out. You know, they were laughing before I even got to the table.
Yeah.
And seated around me, there were 2 or 3 tables of nuns. They came in on a bus. And they hear the laughter, and they watch me coming out with a tray with a big dome cover on it. And I present it to the table, and they're hysterical. And the nuns, what is that? What is that? I'm like, oh, jeez. There we go.
Like, great.
And, so at that point,
It's the second coming, sister.
Yeah, I just turned around and presented it. This is a private. I forgot what I said. Some kind of quippy thing, but not insulting. And the nuns went hysterical on me. Management wanted to fire me, but they couldn't for a couple of reasons. I made the best steak tartare at the table, and because the managers used to sit at my table when they wanted to eat it, and I made the best Caesar salad from scratch at the table.
Nice.
And on top of that, the man that got me the job, he loaned Mervyn LeRoy $5 million to redo the restaurant.
Oh, wow.
So they really couldn't fire me.
Nice.
You were protected.
What's that?
I said you were well protected then.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Nice. Hey, Jason, didn't your grandfather drive for, when he was in the military, for Eisenhower?
He did, yeah. He was Eisenhower's driver in Panama. Yeah, during World War II.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some pictures floating around here of him sitting in the Jeep with Eisenhower next to him.
Yeah. Eisenhower was the best Republican president that I can recall.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he seemed to, yeah.
He got it.
Right. You know, and it's unfortunate that, like the divide has gone, because we don't get political here. You know, I think both parties are insane, but, I wish, part of this whole thing is having people, have conversation. And a lot of people seem to have lost the ability to have those, and that's kind of sad. You know what I mean? Because if you refuse to hear the other side, whatever that other side is, or whatever, multiple sides, you're not going to learn, and you're not going to be able to move forward. But is that
Right.
in design? You know what I mean?
Right. My acting coach at New York used to say, God gave you 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. That should tell you something.
That's right.
Nice. Yeah, it's a thing. But so Ted, tell everyone what you do with your program.
Oh, okay. I was retired and sitting at home, and what am I going to do? Do I want to go to Europe? No, been there, done that. Want another car? No, I can only drive one at a time, but I got a nice motorcycle, so I don't need one of those. And I had forgotten about something that one of my buddies and I, when we were sitting on patrol and not getting, we weren't in a firefight or something, and we were trying to figure out what we'd do when we got home if we lived through the war. And what we decided we wanted to do was go to Hawaii and get a fishing boat and do charter fishing and try to focus on veterans because we just loved the water. We loved our boats. We loved the water. And unfortunately, as things do in war, plans change. Things change. People change.
Yeah.
And so that dream kind of fizzled away after I came home. And so I'm sitting there on the couch going, what the hell am I going to do? And I had my computer on, and I was opened up to, I don't know who it was. I think maybe Facebook I think it was Facebook. And up in the corner, I see this boat come on, an advertisement for a boat. I clicked on it just out of idle curiosity. And I said, oh. And then I started looking at an outfit called Yacht World. And started looking at boats. And then the dream came back. Or the idea of the dream came back.
Right.
And I started to pursue that, and I started looking for boats. And I looked for boats all the way from Key West, Florida to Tacoma, Washington, before I found the one I'm sitting on right this minute.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was to work with veterans, introduce them to the marine life and living and the yacht world because it's so lucrative. To be a captain on my boat, or as an annual job, to pay over $100,000 a year plus all expenses, rental cars, airplanes to go home for the holidays, your food, everything's all covered. So it's not a bad gig to ride on a nice boat up and down the coast. The owners, for the by and large, they're usually, they'll say, okay, go to the Bahamas. And you take the boat to the Bahamas. Then they fly to the Bahamas and they hang out on the boat.
Right.
Then they fly back to New York or wherever, and they send the boat someplace else. So it's not like you have the ownership always, on board trying to run the boat.
Right.
And then with that, I'm in a military town here at Portsmouth, Virginia, and Norfolk, Virginia is one of the biggest shipping areas. It's huge.
Sure, yeah.
And so for veterans, if they want to get married on a boat, but they can't afford the big couple hundred people boats across the way at Norfolk, if they don't leave the dock, they can have like 50 people on the boat for a wedding. And they do that. They give a damage deposit just in case I need to have something clean, somebody spills something.
Sure.
Okay? And then if I don't use it, or I only use a portion of it, they get the rest of it back, and they have the boat for free.
Oh, nice.
If they want to go out on the water and have the ceremony, that limits the number of people due to Coast Guard regulations. And the only thing they get charged with is the captain, which is about, I think, $350 for about 4 hours, and the fuel, which will be about, under $1,000 for both of them.
Gotcha.
So for under $1,000, they can get married on the boat. Now, what also we're offering is we'll scatter ashes at sea for the family for free.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm also working with the Mid-Atlantic Maritime Academy to get the guys enrolled. So if they were a machinist or a welder or whatever, and they're skilled at their trade, they go through. And this school can do anything from air conditioning to making you captain of a cruise ship, and everything in between. And so they would go to the school. During the time they're in school, they'd work on this boat. They'd give us a little, attention. And then when we went on, when we did a charter or something, they would go on the boat, so they would get their sea time, their hours. They would start collecting hours.
Right.
So that when they graduated, they had a resume started. And then, like if you were an aluminum welder and you got your certificate for marine welding, well, the money they make, and they can pick and choose their clients. It's really ridiculous. There's such a shortage of different tradesmen in
for
this
sure.
industry.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So we're doing things like that. We do, there's festival events where we'll pick a bunch of veterans on the boat. We'll go through the festival and the tall ships parade and stuff like that. And, you know, like if somebody gets a promotion and they want to have a party on a boat, they can do that. They have to pay certain fees, you know.
Sure.
They're not like commercial rates. They're like heavily discounted.
Yeah.
We will do full-on charters, but just day charters, no overnight stuff, for the civilians. And their money helps take care of the boat for the veterans.
Gotcha.
And so far, I've got over $1 million invested, and I haven't taken a paycheck in 4 years.
Wow.
That's what happens, though, you know, when you're... What's more important, you know? Obviously, you're able to do it, so, you know, you obviously love to do it, so the passion's there, and that's a great program. Now, is there a way for people to donate if they're interested in your program and they want to help people out?
Yes, there is, but I'm not going to give you the information this time. We can have a conversation in the future because I'm going through some paperwork and rectifying an issue.
Gotcha.
With, IRS. I'm all legit and everything, but there's an issue that I did not become aware of until recently because the person that was handling that, the director that was handling that, is no longer with us.
Gotcha.
And didn't lay out, didn't walk away properly. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. Well, once that's you know, up and able, we'll have you back on so you can tell us, you know, how people can help out and stuff like that. So, okay, you also owned a playhouse, correct?
I did. I no longer.
How did that all come about?
I had a playhouse in North Hollywood, and we were producing a lot of plays, got a lot of awards, and then I was diagnosed with cancer and had 6 months to live. So I kind of had to change my focus.
Damn.
And it killed me to walk away from that. I love that so much.
Yeah. And how long did you have the theater?
Short time, only about 18 to 24 months.
And but how did you? So you obviously liked acting. So then you moved into theater. Or is it more of a business thing, or you just happened to fall into like a sweet kind of a deal?
Yeah, well, what happened actually is my girlfriend went there, and back then I don't know, they probably still have. You could be a member of a theater, and it would cost you $25, $35, $45, $50 a month, whatever the fee was. And I didn't believe in paying for what I studied to learn to do. I figured I should get paid for it rather than having to pay.
Right.
But she was over there. She's all excited. She got a job at a play. And she said that I had to come with her because there was a perfect part in a play for me. And I said, yeah, but I'm not going to pay to do it. So I go there, I get the job as the actor. And while I'm rehearsing for that, another person comes up and wants me to audition for a play they're producing. So I wound up acting in one play and rehearsing another one. And while I was doing that, the artistic director came up to me out of the blue. And he said, Ted, if I hand you the keys to the theater, will you take over? I said, how much do you owe? It was something like about $20,000. I said, yeah, give me the keys and leave.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Haler. That's awesome. So I take it you didn't get along with this guy, eh? Oh, we lose him?
Oh, man, I don't know.
Russian.
That was
Yeah, Russians.
right at the same. Yeah, that was funny. So, okay, so 20 grand, and you told him to get out. That was great.
And the theater had about 75 members at the time, and many of them should not have been there. And I trained in New York, so I was rather serious about this shit.
Sure.
And so I held a meeting the following week and had, all like 70-some people there. So I said, okay, you all heard by now that I'm running the theater. I said, you have to understand something. I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, I'm not your boyfriend, and I'm not your girlfriend, so don't try to fuck me. If you have a problem with that, the door's at the back of the room.
Right, exit now.
So within about 3 or 4 weeks, I was down to about 25 to 30 serious people. And we started to work, started doing plays.
Yeah, like a lot of the, like I guess you can call them hangers on, the 40 people that left. You'll get more done with those 25 people that are, ready to go.
Yeah. So the thing is, they were paying their dues, and they thought that entitled to a role in a play.
Right.
And I explained to them, I said, no, I will give you all the first option. We will audition you first. And if you fill the role, you fill the role. If you don't, I'll advertise in Dramalog, and I'll hire whoever I need to hire for that particular role. I said, there's no guarantee here.
Right.
The only guarantee is you have a place to come, a place to learn, and be a part of something. Other than that, it's all up to you. If you've got the talent, great. If you don't, well, see you later.
Right. So there's a bunch. So there were some mediocres there trying to just pad the resume.
Yeah, well, they didn't understand the whole deal. It's so you're not paying for the right to audition. That's not what you're paying for. You're paying to be part of a theater company.
Right.
And you might have to work props. You might have to work on sets. You might have to sweep the floor. You might have to clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that's it. And when a play comes up, if there's a part you're suited for, you can audition. If you do a good audition, you get the job. If you don't, you don't.
Right. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Pardon me?
Nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
It's weird that people, they just felt entitled that, well, that's weird. Because people, they may go, oh, well, if they're entitled to have a part in the play, and how much did the play cost to put on with costumes, everything else, yada, yada, advertising, everything,
Right.
It's,
Nothing's free.
yeah, I've always
Nothing is
found it funny out there in Hollywood that as soon as someone thinks they're more important than they are, they think no one else should reap the benefit.
right.
Oh, well, they laughed 17 times, therefore I should get 50% of the purse. No.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so. But, yeah, so how do you like the boat life now?
Well, I wish I had done it. I wish I had the money to do it 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Give an example. Now, this will be for your PTSD guys or along that line. The time I came home from Vietnam was 1967, and I've been married 3 times and had a number of wonderful women in my life. And regardless of what the situation was, I always felt like my suitcase was packed. It was under the bed with the handle sticking out so I could grab it and run at any time.
I can relate to that, Ted.
Right?
And when I...
I said I can relate to that.
Yeah. And when I bought the boat, came back from Hollywood to be on the boat, the second week, I unpacked the suitcase.
Wow. You're ready to stay, yeah?
Yep. No more suitcase under my bed. I'm home from Vietnam.
You nested. Well, welcome home, dude.
Absolutely.
You've nested.
Yeah.
So you live full time on the boat, Ted?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's you got to hopefully you'll get out here. It sleeps, including the crew, about 11.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wait, that might not be right. 2, 4, 6, 7. Yeah, about 11. It has 7 bathrooms. It's a pretty good sized boat.
Yeah, so what, how big of a boat is it exactly?
94 feet long.
Oh,
and
wow.
20 and a half feet wide.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty good size.
So do you?
Yeah, I'm the largest permanent boat in this marina.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are your plans on expanding the number of boats? And have you expanded the number of boats?
Yeah, I've got a 31-foot first craft commander that somebody donated.
That's cool.
We've got to raise some funds to do some work on that, because that's another part of the program. Is there's a company that makes there's a couple companies. They make skis and wakeboards that have seats on them and little outriggers. So even if you lost both your legs, your hips, I can strap you into a chair and you can go water skiing.
Yeah. That's
And
really
so
cool.
That's that. Also, yeah, I do want to have more boats. Just, keep waiting for people to discover us and find out what we're doing, believe in it, and then donate the boat.
Right.
I won't be buying more. This one was enough to buy.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Ted, is it a diesel boat or is it a sailboat? What type of boat is it?
Oh, no, this is it's a 1985 Broward flush deck is the model. It's aluminum hull and weighs 147 tons.
Wow.
Jesus.
Driven by 2 V12 diesels that are turbocharged and supercharged.
Oh, wow.
They crank out 775 horse of engine. Cruising speed, you keep it around 10 knots. And at that, you're burning about 40 gallons of fuel an hour.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a big one. She's heavy. A lot of room all over the place. It's just it's a pretty nice boat.
Yeah. Fantastic.
1985. She's 30-some years old, and a lot of the stuff on it's original. So it's got some wear and tear, so to speak.
Right.
But she's still elegant, beautiful. And over the course of time, when donations start to flow again, we're going to be doing some repairs and upgrades, new carpets and stuff like that. But the bones of the boat, that's the important part. The bones of this boat, the engines have less than 500 hours on them since the last rebuild.
Oh, okay.
So they're like, new. And they're Detroit diesels. It's kind of like having a Harley. If you're not leaking oil, you better fucking put some oil in the back.
Yeah,
Right?
I drove tractor trailers for a lot of years. I ran some Detroit Series 60s and stuff. Yeah, good motors.
Yeah, these are 1292s.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the 12-cylinder, 92 cubic inches per cylinder.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'd like to see it sometime.
Yeah, well, grab Vince by the collar and come on out.
I hear you.
There you go. We'll do a show from the boat.
Let's do it.
So speaking of Harley Davidson, so Ted, how did your whole involvement with Harley come about?
Oh, that was a fluke. It's kind of like a Schwab story. I was out in the desert for a couple of months doing a shoot for, what was that? That was Camel cigarettes for the foreign market. And the theme of the the Camel cigarette shoot was like a Indiana Jones thing.
Okay.
And so I come back into the city after we'd done shooting, and it was like a 6-7 hour ride on my bike, and I'm dirty, and I got my gear on the back of the bike, but I decided to stop at Johnny Rockets for a chocolate malt before I go home. Yeah, I pull up, sit down, order my malt, and one of my friends saw my bike, and he pulls up, and he sits down, and waiting for my malt to come out, and this little redhead girl, she looked like she was 12, comes running up to me, and she said, "We want to use you in a commercial. We want to use you in a commercial." I said, "Yeah, okay, call my agent." Because I was just really gritty, just got off from a long, long ride. No sense of humor whatsoever. And she said, "We want to use you. We want to see you right now." And I think the only thing I could think of is some of my friends are fucking with me.
Right.
And so can I have my malt? No, now. Oh, shit. So I said, okay. I tell my buddy, you don't see me in 20 minutes or so. Come on looking for me. And so we go down the street from Johnny. This is on Melrose. And go into an office building, go upstairs to the second floor. The door bursts open, and she goes, "I found him. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And she, oh, by the way, when she came to the chair, yeah, we want to use you in a Harley Davidson commercial. And I said, okay, does it pay? Oh, yeah, it pays. So anyway, I go up there, and the producer, the director, wardrobe, 2 representatives from Harley Davidson, the whole staff of people. And so they started putting clothes on me and taking Polaroids. And I said, geez, I can come back and get cleaned up. She said, no, this is fine. And so we're doing that. She said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, sleeping. How about if you're out at the El Mirage lake bed, and we're going to start shooting tomorrow? I said, well, you should call my agent. I don't have time for that. This is the deal you want. Just take it. And so I was like, it's not that money. Out in the desert for a few days. Bunch of girls, bunch of motorcycles.
What's bad?
Okay. So I do that, and we shoot the commercial over I don't know how many days. And that was that. Okay. And then the representative from Harley that was in charge of the clothing division, this was right when the clothing first came out for Harley, back in like 92, 3, 4, someplace in there. And so I'm out there, and the head of the clothing department pulls me aside and said, we're going to use you in the catalog, too. Well, it'd be nice if you asked first. But so, a few months later, we shoot the first catalog, and we shot that up. I think the first one was in Joshua Tree. And so I go up to Joshua Tree for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. We're wined and dined. I ride brand new motorcycles that aren't even in the showrooms yet. I'm dressed in all brand new clothes, hanging out with a bunch of beautiful women, and they're paying me.
Man, that must have really sucked.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. Good country, America,
Right.
Yeah.
As luck would have it.
Yeah, as luck would have it. Then we shot some stuff up in Ridgecrest. And there was one shot, they called it the OK Corral shot. There's 3 of us walking down the street. I'm kind of like in the middle and a step or 2 out in front. And that picture, literally, almost overnight, I'd be in a restaurant, people would come up to me. Hey, you that guy? Did you sign this? Can I take a picture with you?
You were a celebrity.
Yeah, overnight.
Nice.
About 30, 40 years. But yeah, and then they...
Oh, man.
Russians.
Okay. So, so it left off. You were famous for like 3 or 4 years. People were like stopping and interrupt you at dinner and signing autographs and stuff.
Yeah, I was on billboards and newspapers and magazines all over the world. And, because of it, I got other catalogs that I worked on. And I actually did a print jobs for Gucci on a big, huge 2-page spread in all of the women's magazines.
Nice.
Yeah, just,
Okay, were you single during this time?
Yes.
Right on.
Yeah, but not for long.
Which day of the week?
I did not, during that time, I did not date or go out with anybody that I met when I was doing Harley stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because you don't want to. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, ethics. I think it's called ethics.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
Yeah, but they don't. They don't really. That never really comes up very much these days. That whole ethics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ted, are you still riding these days?
Actually, no. My bike's in Los Angeles at my apartment. I wasn't able to bring it out. I had some things. I didn't move out here because I kept my apartment in case something blew up, and also I put my mom up in my apartment. She was in Phoenix. I moved her out from Phoenix and let her stay in my place for free, and wound up, taking care of her, paying all the bills. The only thing I didn't pay for was her gas and her food.
Right. That's great.
And this helped her out a lot.
Yeah. What you got? What kind of bike you got out there? What are you riding?
I've got a 92 Heritage.
Oh, and, nice.
Yeah. And I completely rebuilt it myself.
Awesome.
Painted it myself. Did all my own powder coating. All that stuff. And
yeah, I had years ago. I had an '88 Heritage. I loved that bike. I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
I'm riding an 18 Ultra Classic right now.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a big couch on wheels. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when I got my bike, I bought it new, and I wouldn't let him put the windshield on. I said, leave it in the box. If you put the windshield on the bike, I'm not going to pick it up. Yeah. If I want to be in a car, I'll be in a car. Don't try to sell me a radio for it, because I'm not going to. I want to hear the sound and I want to feel the wind. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So to each his own.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've eaten my words because years ago, I rode, Dynas and, I had wide glides and stuff, and I always said I'd never have a bike with a windshield. And then, I don't know, I guess I officially got old because I saw this thing and I said, yeah, I think I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, when I was on one of the shoots, they told me to take the fuck was that? The big bagger, the one that's got the trunk on the back and windshield, radio. And so Harley told me, the people at Harley said, take this one out for a ride. I said, oh, all right. It's got a windshield. It's got radios. And they said, no, we're not asking you. We're telling you to take it for a ride. Okay. So I'm out in the okay, then they turn the radio on. And Lenny Kravitz are even to go my way.
Nice.
So I pick up on this thing. And okay, they want me to ride it. I'm going to ride this bastard. So I do. And I start throwing it into turns. And I'm literally dragging the floorboards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, hey, this thing handles really well. I was really shocked, with all that fiberglass and stuff all over the place. I was thinking it's going to be a real tub.
Yeah.
Oh man, and going out to the shoots, the girls, the makeup artists, wardrobe people, they'd always want to ride with one of us, and I'd get them on that big glide, whatever it was called. I don't know if it was electric glide or what.
Yeah.
But I started going through Joshua Tree, taking the turns, dragging the floorboards, and the girls are going nuts. They're just digging the hell. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So, okay, so now let's connect. So what is it with, what's the connection with the amount of veterans who are drawn to ride?
Well, I can only say from my point of view, it's a feeling of freedom. It also used to remind me of when I was off duty in Vietnam for fun. I'd go up in the helicopters until my commanding officer caught me. We went up one night with an outfit called Raider 26, and there's 3 choppers, 3 Hueys. And one of them had a light board, and it had 7 aircraft landing lights on this light board. And there would be another ship that would fly above it with its running lights on, and then underneath it was a dark ship. And that's where I was, sitting with the door gunner. And what they do is they light up the jungle. If they receive fire, they'd be shooting at the light ship and the one with the running lights on. We weren't running with lights on, so we'd sneak in and scoop in and just shoot the shit out of them. And I was doing that one night, and we got into it, and we took a couple hits underneath it. And I used to sit in between the 2 doors against the back of the pilots and co-pilot. They'd have 50 caliber ammunition cans, 2 or 3 high, and that's where I would sit.
Right.
One night we get into the ship, and all of a sudden the thunk, and it's like right below me. I said, "Whoa, what the hell was that?" So we get back to the base, and this is at night, and the pilot's underneath the ship, and I get under there with him, and it took a round, and it went right into one of the 50 caliber cans without exploding around.
Oh my God!
Blow my whole ass off. Anyway, I'm under there looking at the hole, and somebody kicks my feet and calls out my name. And I like, oh fuck, I know that voice. I go out, and it's my CO. He said, "You go up once more, court martial your ass."
Oh shit!
Yep. Yes, sir. And so I don't know where was that leading.
That was about the biker connection.
Oh, yeah. It reminds me of the feeling of flying in a helicopter also, when you're doing banking moves. And it's that feeling of freedom, that openness, the control. It's you in control, you in the wind, you in the road.
Right.
It's just...
there's nothing like it.
And that's basically like the polar opposite of being a soldier of any kind or stripe, is that you have no control, you follow the order?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And also because, being that you've been at war, you're no longer part of the civilian population. Once a veteran, always a veteran.
Right.
Once you've been to battle and you've shot people, or people have shot at you, or you've been wounded, you just don't fit anymore. You go into a special place. And this is a way of, the bike is also a way of getting away from society.
Right.
And
Right.
it's a way of quietly, or sometimes not so quietly, saying, "I'm different. Leave me alone."
Right.
Yep. Yeah, because when you're on it, I mean, it's just you and the bike. I mean, that's it. You can focus. There's a whole different level of focus you get when you're riding too.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's like you take people and put them in a car, and you go over some terrain, some hills and turns and dry and grass and wet, and they have a certain experience. You take that same road and you travel it on a bike. You have a whole different experience, because in the car, the windshield represents like a television screen.
Right.
You're watching something. You're not part of it. But on a motorcycle, you're involved in it. You're embedded in it. You're imbued in it. You're part of the scene.
All the smells. I mean, there's, it's a whole sensory thing, really,
Yeah. Yeah. On a bike, you'll feel, like you go down into a dip and you'll feel a temperature change.
Yeah.
And you'll go down, like if you go through Bouquet Canyon outside Los Angeles, Bouquet Canyon, when the flowers are in bloom, you go through one turn and it's a certain flower and there's a fragrance. You go another half a mile and go through another turn, and there's another fragrance, it's just
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, multi-sensory. And, you mentioned about looking through a windshield, and it's like you're watching something. I believe Jason is very versed in that, going to all the titty bars he went to, where he'd, have to pay $20 for the screen to open up and watch the girl for a couple.
Hey, you're right. Times Square back in the 80s, man. Yeah.
Yeah. During college, I used to take Jason to lingerie shows, and I was like, dude, it's free lunch. He's like, oh, lingerie. I'm like, no, dude, they got free chicken wings. You don't understand.
Well, I feel bad for you guys. I've never had to go to one of those places.
Well, it was only a half block away, and to be fair, at the time, my girlfriend was the bartender, so,
Right.
we were getting free drinks and free chicken wings.
Hey, we were suckers for free food in those days, too. We were hungry,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jason recorded, he was the engineer for Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. That's his one of his claims to fame over there. He recorded
What
a
about
lot
Whitney Houston?
Jason engineered I Will Always Love You from the movie.
Yeah, I worked on it. Yeah. Pete was the engineer, but I was working the stage, mic the stage and all that stuff.
Yeah, he's assistant engineer. He's being too modest, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But so Jason's background is sound and photography. And so how long did you do the modeling thing? And which was more lucrative, modeling per day or acting per day?
Acting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think Harley paid me $500 a day back in the 90s. And, like my base was at least $1,000 a day doing acting.
Oh, your SAG minimum was, gotcha. All right, well, that's interesting.
I started out like everybody else working for minimum, but then, I graduated and started building the price tag.
Yeah,
because my agent.
Yeah, and people don't know that there's a minimum if you're a SAG actor, and then you know. And so, what do you think about the whole acting thing today? Like for instance, Ryan Reynolds. Okay, I get it. Okay, like when he was a smartass, a smarmy guy when he did the Waiter movie, which was really good. And then he became a serious actor for a little while there. Then he just became Ryan Reynolds, and that's all he does. Like, dude,
I don't know. Hey, you know what? I have no idea who that is.
Oh, well, good for you. You lucky bastard, Ted. But
well,
it's like people don't act anymore. They if they're like there's certain actors, they just show up and they're that person in every role that they do, and it's not just him, but it's other people doing it. What's your view on that? Because you studied, so.
Well, you have to. John Wayne did that, but he did it better than anybody.
Sure.
John Wayne was always John Wayne.
Right. Yeah, it's
the new actor. I really don't watch much new stuff. I prefer to watch black and whites, just older stuff, the film noir.
Yeah, my favorite comedy of all time, and we're gonna do this for the Round Dial Theater because once a quarter I do a radio play. So I did a parody of War of the Worlds called Woke of the Worlds, and I put that out a little bit ago. And then for Christmas, I'm doing a Christmas Carol, and Vito Bupkis plays the Scrooge. And then we're going to do Arsenic and Old Lace. To me, that comedy is one of the best ever. You can put it up against... Comedies now suck. They're not comedies. They're soft-steppities. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ted, you there?
Oh, man.
Man.
Damn Russians.
Russians every time, goddammit. Yeah, so what's your feeling about these people who aren't acting anymore? Like, does that bother you as someone who took it seriously? And I'm not saying they don't take it seriously, but
They take the money seriously.
so it's an ethical thing. Is it?
Like I said, Vince, I don't watch them.
Yeah.
I don't watch television series and all those things. I watch like Netflix, Pluto, Tubi, IMDb. Someplace where I can find a good range of films. Some of the films are rather modern, but they're good films with good acting, good directing. But I just don't know. Everything changes, everything evolves.
Yeah.
And you're exposed to what you're exposed to now as a younger person. You don't expect anymore.
Right.
Right.
Like I was saying, my favorite comedy of all time, black and it beats anything. And the new films aren't comedy to me; they're something else. They're trying to be. But Arsenic and Old Lace is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I watched it last week.
Yeah, and so I'm going to do that as a radio play in first quarter of next year because I'm doing A Christmas Carol starring Vito Bupkis, and I just did War of the Worlds, which is out, called Woke of the Worlds. But,
wow, cool.
Yeah, and I in Woke of the Worlds, I play 17 roles. I play 17 parts in that.
Oh, you greedy bastard.
Yeah. Well, it was right. I'm like, okay, some people said they were going to do it, and then they couldn't. I'm like, well, it's right in front of me. I'll just, I can do like 200 voices, so I just picked a few, So I got to work with like James Mason and, other people, But, yeah. Yeah, I do it, James Mason.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, Jesus is different. He's actually from Texas in this one. No, just kidding. That's a joke. But it was fun. So I'm doing parodies of these radio plays, and I'm taking the actual script. So I took Orson Welles' script from 1938, and I did a parody of that script.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was it's
it was great.
Yeah, it works into my broader scope of like the books of mine that are coming out. It's like part of the story because that has always enthralled me, and I think that's when the media started to, the people in power were like, oh, in my view, that could have been something that why don't we try this out, see if we can scare the shit out of everybody. You know what I mean? And people are like, even if they didn't know, they're like, oh my God, did you see the power this thing had? Totally full of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyway, but it was fun to do. But so Arsenic and Old Lace, I think, is just a brilliant, send up.
Another one I've watched Arsenic. Well, I can't even tell you how many times. Another one I have watched so many times I almost know the dialogue for the whole fucking movie is wait a second, My Man Godfrey.
Which one?
My Man Godfrey.
Oh yeah, that is a great film.
so brilliant.
Absolutely.
So brilliant. And the acting, the directing, the sets, everything. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was a craft. Craftsmanship seems to diminish, and I'm not to put anything against digital, because it actually is probably more, the most wasteful industry ever is filmmaking. It's fucking wasteful as hell. It's disgusting. And it was probably way worse 50, 80 years ago. But, and the digital stuff, saves on all that stuff. I get it. But, holy cow, what a wasteful industry that was. Like you would be, if you never made a film, you'd be surprised you'd be like, what?
Oh, yeah.
The amount of waste and just, unbelievable.
We'd sit there, we'd build a set, and you build the walls out of 1x3 pine and luan, which is laminated mahogany. And so we're eating up mahogany forests, and you build it, paint it, set dress it, shoot it for a couple of minutes, and you throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Wow.
That used to be nuts.
Yeah, if you're not saving the flats or whatever, if it's just, and then you'll do this whole extravagant thing. Let's say we'll just put for scope, Raiders of the Lost Ark, because Ted mentioned it earlier. So you have that, whatever it is, and then all that shit goes away and gets destroyed. And then when they do the next one, they rebuild it.
Right.
Where in recent years we've had some filmmakers who go, well, let's make, and it's more for actors' availability, but let's make 2 in a row, or let's do all 3 at one time. That's what they should. If you're going to do a trilogy, just invest and do it that way, so you don't have to, if they're going to be the ones bitching at us to fucking conserve shit, fuck off. Why don't you try first? And, we're doing our part. We recycle. You know what I mean?
But I think the biggest change with acting came when CGI came in, because now you're not working with much physical stuff. It's all imaginary.
Right.
So you're doing the job of the character, but then you're also doing the job of the set builder, of the production designer.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a huge difference to that. I'm not trained or anything. I'm just a goofball, jagoff comedian. And, when I've done stuff on camera and stuff, but when I do like the radio, the mock radio stuff, you do have to be that. It's almost like being on stage. You have to oversell it,
Right.
There's a different, talent to it, but,
Especially doing parody. That's like over the top. It's got to be real, but it's got to be over the top.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like what was the one line like the alien ship is now sitting on the ground. What we do not know, more importantly, is their political view or sexual agenda and why they attacked her. You gotta, there's a whole different weird, it's and then you find out if you're around green screen if you can really act or not. You know what I mean? Do you think theater people have a harder time or an easier time versus movie actors?
Oh boy.
You know what I mean? Because if you're a theater actor, there's a ladder and a black stage and you're doing a monologue. And you don't have all that shit, so you have to do the same thing as a green screen actor.
What do you mean? There's a ladder?
Well, just say, let's say you're at the theater. It's Tuesday, and you're doing this scene, and you're selling everyone, and you have to recreate the world in your mind and what you're conveying, just like a green screen actor. Do you think it's easier for theater people to do green screen than strictly movie actors?
I honestly can't answer that. I've never done green screen.
Yeah.
I've done theater,
And theater is different. Theater, you've got your set, you've got props, you've got things that physical things that are around you.
Yeah.
You don't have to create. What you have to create is the fact that you belong there, that it's real. It's real to you. It's real. You have purpose, and you do that through the strength of your character and your focus on the other actors and the elements involved. So I like theater much better. Much better.
You like theater? Is it because of the response?
Oh, the response is part of it, but it's also because it's live. There's no second take.
Right.
You have to have your shit together. And there'll be times where you'll go up on a line. You won't remember a line. You go to, a friend of mine used to call it the place where elephants go to die.
Shit in your pants, basically.
Oh man, it happened to me in a play once in Hollywood, and I thought I was there for like a half an hour, and finally one of the other actors said something and triggered my line, and after the play, I apologized to the director. He said, "For what?" I said, "I went where the elephants go to die." Because you did. I didn't see it. I told worry. That's the mystery of or magic of theater. It's just so powerful. And I was doing a play one time, Wait Until Dark, and that was a movie also. Alan Arkin, who were all those?
Alan Arkin, he's a Chicago guy.
Yeah, and so we're doing it one night, and the girl that played the blind girl was actually blind.
Oh, wow.
Which was a unique thing. And one night, the character that I played, actually it was Doug McClure and I split the part. He was so busy doing movies and TV and stuff, they hired me also because they knew that Doug was going to be gone a lot. And so Cheryl McManus was the actress's name.
Okay.
That played the and she was really good. She had the room memorized to a T. But one night, one of the things we did was I'm trying to con her out of and find a doll. And the doll was filled with heroin. She didn't know it. Neither did her husband, who brought it back from Canada. And so I'm thinking it's someplace. And I'm telling the wife that I'm an army buddy of his. And so we get along great. And she goes, well, we've got, and I can't remember how it leads into it, but I've got a bunch of photos and things. And she goes in and she gets a suitcase, brings the suitcase out, sits on the couch, and we open up the suitcase, and I look at the photos, and I'm going, oh, yeah, that's he and I at such and such, and I'm just bullshitting, right? And one night she brings out the suitcase, and don't you know, the thing explodes open. There's photographs all over the stage. And we have to ad-lib at that point because it wasn't planned. And I said, go ahead, let me sit you down on the couch. I'll pick up all this stuff. And so I go do that. The audience never knew that it wasn't part of the play.
Right.
Another night we had Greg Malavy was playing Rope, the character that, what's his name played? Oh, gosh. I just said his name a few minutes ago.
Doug McClure?
Huh?
Doug?
Not Doug, no. Oh, gosh. Arkin.
Oh, Alan Arkin, yeah.
Yeah, he played this bad guy. And so Greg Malavy, he was a TV actor. I can't remember the name of his show. But anyway, he was in several series. He plays the bad guy, and he's supposed to, he killed a girl and left her in the apartment, and he's supposed to bring in a carpet, and then we're going to roll her up in the carpet to take her out. Well, he comes in and starts doing his dialogue, but he didn't have the carpet with
And you could see it, as an actor, what I could see on his face when he realized I didn't have the carpet.
He started sweating.
Oh, fuck. I just looked up and I said, "Hey, Ro, if you look outside, grab outside. There's a carpet out there. Bring that in. We'll roll her up in that." Audience never knew there was a problem.
Right. Yeah, it was a nice save.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Just, work your feet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry, Ted.
You just had to be on top of everything, and it's all organic. It's all live.
Yeah.
And if somebody drops the ball, you have to pick it up and hand it to them without making it like you're, saying, "Look what you did, stupid." No,
right.
Just pick it up and hand it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely. And that's how magic happens.
That's how what?
That's how magic happens.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, not always, but I mean, that's where that one thing that comes in that wasn't there before, And that's it, like the whole digital era. Ted used to play bass, correct? Or do you still play bass? Ted? Hold on. Jason?
Yeah.
It's those damn Russians.
Damn Russians again.
I'm telling you.
They're persistent, right?
Right.
Yeah, they are.
But,
yeah, they are. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to PTSD for a minute.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. It may sound like, I'm over the PTSD or I'm past it. There's nothing further from the truth. It's not something you get over. It's not something that goes away. You can't take a shot or a pill. But what you can do, at least for me, this is my perspective, is you learn how to manage it. I still have it. It still affects me. It still gets in my way. But you learn how to manage it. You see certain things starting to come on. You have certain feelings or you start reacting a certain way. And that triggers something, in me after so many years of working with it that, okay, this is it. And I'll take a break from whatever it is, or I'll excuse myself from a conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll have the attacks, and I had, this has happened, I had my last two dogs, both of them. I'd be having either a panic attack or a PTSD moment. And my dogs, both of them, I had them at different times.
Yeah.
I was there, and I'd get panic attacks that were so bad, I was afraid that if I opened my eyes, I'd die. If I moved my arm, I would die. My dog would come up, she'd be in her bed, and she'd come up and lay next to me, and then she'd nuzzle up into me, and she would sit there until she felt the panic attack or PTSD moment pass. And then she'd go down to my feet, and she'd hang out there for a while just to make sure. Wow. And then when she felt that I was over it, she'd go down and get in her own bed.
That's amazing.
My dogs really helped me a lot. I don't know. I don't know if I could have done it without them.
Yeah, I've heard that they say they can sense all kinds of things with us,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's just important to know. It's like you don't look for a cure. There is no damn cure. All right, what there is learning how to manage it and finding strength in that, comfort in that, and being safe with that. That you don't have to figure you have to cure it. There's no cure.
Right.
Well, Ted, let me ask you this. I mean, do you think it's possible for people that are not veterans to to have PTSD? I mean, just like civilians as well.
for
I mean,
sure.
From,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
PTSD isn't just from war.
Right.
PTSD is from trauma.
Yeah.
Okay? You can be in a car accident and have PTSD. I have a friend of mine, a lady friend of mine, lives in North Hollywood. She rolled her Jeep like 4 times on the, I think it was the 405. PTSD big time.
Yeah.
Another person, back years ago when I was living in Rhode Island and I had a hair salon at the time, one of our customers was one of the few survivors off of a jet plane crash as it was landing or taking off. I can't remember which. And she had PTSD. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you get in a situation when you're looking at, how come I'm still here and the other one's not? You know, that's survival, and then it becomes, you know, that might walk you into PTSD.
Right.
So I just, dear listeners, you know, don't look for a cure. There isn't one. You have to accept the responsibility of this thing that's happened to you, and understand that many people like you, and there's no dishonor in it. And the fact that you're going to experience fear and anger and all that stuff, it's perfectly normal, because if you go through these experiences and it doesn't change you, you weren't normal going in. You were a psychopath because it didn't change you.
Right.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, so I almost died. I had COVID, or it was actually Corona in November of 19. So I almost bled to death from the dry cough. It broke a blood vessel in the back of my sinus cavity. Everyone thought it was a bloody nose. No one would believe me if I fucking told them, because, oh, you're conspiracy. No, I'm not. You know, so this happened to me, whatever. And, you know, so that was like, you know, because basically the doctor had to sit on my chest while my ex-wife held me back from beating his ass, because he broke my nose 2 inches into my face while treating me, because he had to shove this fucking thing in. And I have a deviated septum, and he snapped it open. And I don't suggest that for anybody, but I did get medicinal cocaine in the hospital, and that was part of the cure.
What?
So then, basically, what cured me was like a Benadryl with medicinal liquid cocaine rubbed in my nasal cavity. That's what stopped the bleeding, but it was bleeding so fast that they said I couldn't have a blood transfusion. So my 2 boys and my ex-wife were there in case and I was totally at peace and stuff. So that was one thing. And then my mom got sick later and had something that I sent the rest of the family out because she was reliving a trauma, which fucked me up in a little bit. And, you know, there's levels to PTSD, and no one's less or more. There's just things that happen. And then my brother committed suicide, and then it was, you know.
Yeah, and a comment I get a lot is, well, you've been through so much more than I have, but I can't compare my traumas to your traumas. And the first thing I tell them, I said, you know, relax a minute. That's really bullshit.
Right, because your worst thing is your worst thing.
Your worst day is your worst day. Mine is mine.
Correct.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Not feeling guilty or out of sorts because you don't think that whatever you did has the same value of what I did.
Right.
They're the same. They're the same.
Yeah.
Right. And like my whole thing, I couldn't talk to people on the phone when it happened with my brother. So I took the phone call of my best friend, Paul Vance, and we talked after maybe 5 minutes. But the 3 a.m. call was to Ted.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Didn't we talk?
Yeah, that was the 3 a.m. call to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, you know, much appreciated.
Hey.
You knew, you understood, you know. And then Jason checked in on me every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a good buddy of mine killed himself. I guess it's been probably 4 or 5 years ago now. I've had a few friends, but that one was the closest to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
We've all lost some.
yeah, and Ted, what's your advice to people who are going through things? They know something may be up, or maybe they don't, but they're questioning, or maybe they do know. What's a good bit of advice to get guys to not step up, because that's the wrong word, but to embrace getting help?
Well, first, accept the fact that you have a problem. Don't try to resist the problem. Accept the fact, I've got a problem. Okay, what do I do with this problem? I better get some help because I don't understand it. I'm not educated in it. Whatever, verbiage you have to use. But just to get help. There's no shame in getting help.
Right.
The shame is in not getting help and doing self-harm or harming another. That's where the shame is. And like I said earlier, you go through these experiences. Before you went in, you're an innocent babe, so to speak. You go out after the experience, you're changed. And if you don't change because of the experience, you were a lunatic going in.
Right. Well, a lot of guys from, say, our generation back, too. I mean, it's, I can speak from experience. I mean, you're raised that, you don't bitch, you don't moan, you don't be a pussy. I mean, you just suck it up and get on with it, and I mean, that works for a number of years, but sooner or later you're going to pay the fiddler, the day's going to come. So
I want to tell you something here too. And this came from the psychiatrist I was seeing, the emergency room psychiatrist. Thank God she was a wonderful woman. One day I'm waiting for my appointment. I got in there a bit too early, and I'm sitting there in the lobby. And she comes out, and she gets this elderly Japanese man. I thought, wow, that's unusual. So when I go in on my turn, I said, I'm not trying to dig into somebody else's case or anything like that, but that gentleman that you just saw, why was he here? And she goes, he's got PTSD. He lived with it for many years, and then it finally overtook him. And the thing is, the more you resist, or the longer you resist, the nastier it's going to be.
Yep.
The harder it's going to be.
Yeah.
So rather than being a tough guy, John Wayne was John Wayne. You're not fucking John Wayne. Okay?
Right.
Mythical, he played mythical characters in movies. They didn't exist, so he could be anything he wanted. You are living in a real world. You have to be what's real.
Right.
You have to be real to yourself. And first off, there's no shame. Like I said, there's no shame in it. The only shame is not getting help. And just take care of yourself. Love yourself.
Yeah.
As hard as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Reach out. There are emergency numbers all over the place for veterans. And, hell, you could call it, even if you're not a veteran, you could probably call those same helplines and get directed to somebody that can help you.
Absolutely.
But you'll find out you're not alone.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
And I think that's one of the biggest things when you're going through an episode. And I can't even count the episodes I've had where I'm laying in the dark and I'm feeling totally alone. But you're really not.
Yeah.
Right. And just so everyone knows, the Veterans Crisis Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. Press 1.
Yeah.
Reach out if you can. The hotlines are great because you can be anonymous. And, it's multi-layered. And part of this podcast is to, make sure that guys can talk openly and all that stuff. And, man, if it wasn't for you two guys, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. A pleasure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to know. Like when I dialed Ted's number at 3 a.m, I knew he was going to pick up.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people may think it's not appropriate to call your buddy at 3 a.m, but if you have to, fucking dial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your buddy may not know what to do, or but he can at least maybe talk you down or point you to a hotline or something.
Or just listen. Just listening sometimes is good.
Absolutely. But
Yeah. I had a good friend of mine work with him in building sets and stuff, and we'd ride our motorcycles together. He was a musician, so I'd go to his gigs. And one time he called me. I hadn't seen him in a while. And he called me and said, Ted, a long time ago you told me something. I said, what's that? He said, I've forgotten how I actually put it, that I value friendship. The way I rate friendship is not the good times. I rate the friendship by when you call me at 3 a.m. and ask for my help. That's when you really need it, when you're feeling desperate.
right.
That to me is a privilege. That's the privilege of friendship. And it's a gift.
Oh, absolutely. And, in making those phone calls, when you make the phone call to that person, you can be completely honest because they understand that that's why you called them. You know what I mean? I knew Ted had a immediate understanding from my brother's point of view and mine. You know what I mean?
Yep.
A unique moment, basically.
Well, there's probably more of us that that deal with stuff than don't, but everybody thinks that they're, their buddy's going to think they're weird or, weak, whatever.
Yeah.
People would probably be surprised to know that a lot of guys are going through their own shit, basically.
Oh, for sure. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Ted? Is he there? Shit. All right, hold on.
Maybe if you paid your phone bill once in a while.
Goddamn Russians. Yeah, anyway, so we were saying that, how important it is for guys to be able to talk, even if, your buddy may think you're weird. What are your views on that,
Well, the thing, what I was saying before, the interruption was, to me, it's a badge of honor. If you call me first, that's showing me the value of our friendship. Not when it's good times and you bring over an extra bottle of wine or whatever the hell that is. It's when you call me in the middle of the night.
Sure.
That's when I know what our friendship is.
Oh, absolutely. And, there was a thing like when, in my generation, yours, Ted, there's a missing item right now. Okay. And for people who don't live by it, they don't have any fucking clue. It's called respect.
Yeah.
Respect, I had a board on the, when the boys would do something wrong, there was a board on the wall. Go to the board. What does it say? It'd say truth, loyalty, respect. Okay, say it again. Truth, loyalty, respect. One more time. Truth, loyalty, respect. Why do we say that? Well, without truth, you get no respect. Without respect, you have no loyalty. And people don't understand that. I grew up around biker culture and veteran culture and rock and roll, and that was my whole thing. So I totally understood the vibe, and I hung out in that life space, whatever it is. And there seems to be today, I could be wrong, maybe I'm just an old fuck now, and I'm like, get off my lawn! But there seems to be the missing thing is respect.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, well, what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened.
You know, people would go to me, hey, oh my God, your son held the door open for me. I just want to mention something about your. I'm like, well, I taught him manners. Is your kid a jagoff? Is your kid a jagoff? What the, you know, what, why wouldn't your kid do?
I think right now, where we've grown to as a country and as a society is, I know we've lost the ability to love and respect ourselves, so we can't do it. We can't respect others or love others. We've been sold a bill of goods by. Oh, and I don't want to get into politics or that stuff. But,
you know, I'm the opinion of always question, because there's nothing wrong with questioning. You know, always question. Yeah. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Always question. There's nothing wrong with it. And when they tell you that it's wrong, something's wrong with it, then there's a problem. So I think we're in a really weird space right now. What do you think about that, Ted?
They do. But yeah, we've just, capitalism has gotten so far out of hand and so ridiculous. The imbalance of wealth. You take a look at the increase in salaries in Congress, the Senate, and in corporate America, and then the average guy that's working for a living.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, probably when you were a kid too, I'm growing up in Ohio, and all of our families, most of them, the father went to work, mom stayed home.
Yeah.
And when you came home from school, mom was there. You either got a snack or you went up, did your homework, or you reported in, then you went out to play.
Yeah.
And we still had enough. Dad made enough living wage-wise that there was money put away for school, for college. There was money put away for vacations.
Right.
There was money put away for holidays. There was money put away for emergencies.
Yeah.
All on one paycheck. You can't do that with two paychecks in a household now.
Right.
Pay the more.
Right, like my co-host Jason Knuckle Dragger, fucking Neanderthal. You know, in order for the mail to get delivered, you know, you fucking caveman. He works 6 days a week. You know, he's driving truck, making sure that you know, Jason, tell everyone what you do, and you're out there doing it. You know.
Yeah, load my first load at 3 a.m. Taking it to the post offices. Me and all my coworkers, we're getting it to the post offices so they could do their thing. And I basically I work 3 a.m. to about 6:30 p.m. With a couple hour break midday in between routes. But it just it's just hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of my uncles are tradesmen, and my dad, was either a tradesman or drove truck or whatever. And sorry, I guess all the payments are coming out of my phone right now because it has reached to the 27th of November. Sorry about that. But, yeah, people were able to do it. And, I don't know. Enough with the taxes. There's too many...
Oh, man, it's unreal.
Not party specific. Not party specific, but there's too much taxes going on. Manage what's going on. Let's get rid of because we know programs have doubled and tripled, not in scope or financial outlay, but they're doing the same thing. Let's get an audit here. We just went through, or we're just finishing going through a really hard time. Let's audit things and figure, if 3 different programs are doing the same thing, let's combine them, get rid of the excess. That shouldn't.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a bad idea. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's sad that nowadays you can work 60, 80 hours a week and you're still waiting on next week's paycheck. I mean, you would think when you put out that much that you'd be able to have a little breathing room, but I mean, it's just not the case anymore.
Right.
It's like,
all right. No, it's insanity, and the healthcare costs.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
it's just on and on and on, and there's no reason for it. It's you can go to Canada, and let's say that you're on one of the statins, right? And you go to Canada, you buy it for $5 for a month. You come here and it's 50 or 150.
Yeah.
And it's insane. And because the government regulations, because of the lobbyists,
Correct.
they don't want you to pay that. They want you to pay more.
Yeah.
And what they don't, I think they've lost sight of, is that if they keep on going, what they're going to do is price themselves off the planet.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody to be able to afford their services or goods.
Well, like insulin. Yeah, that's a perfect example of what's going on. Why is it 100 times more here than it is in Canada? What? Hello?
Yeah.
Who's getting paid off? The people bitching or the people not bitching? You know what I mean? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the pharmaceuticals outlay a bunch of money to both sides. Don't give me that bullshit.
Right.
And don't politicize healthcare. There needs to be, there's a weirdness going on, and I don't have any public opinion about it. But you shouldn't politicize health at all. But what do I? I'm an idiot. I could be wrong. You know what I mean? But it's very, very odd. That's all I can say.
Well, growing up as a kid, the hospitals were not in it for profit. The hospitals were there to provide a service.
Right.
And the administrators, they made a normal wage.
Right.
Now the hospital is a business to make a profit. And like when I had the accident with my foot, the medical bills were, I think, like $779,000.
Wow.
A month at Sinai, and 5 surgeries, and all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
You know how much my lawyer got that down to? You won't believe this.
$5?
38 from
Wow.
770.
Wow.
That just proves right there the amount of padding that's going on.
Well, yeah. Well, here's another thing. You can literally call 10 places and ask how much a knee surgery will cost, and it's this specific knee surgery with this specific repair, and they can't answer you.
Nope.
That's crazy.
Because they don't know how many tissue boxes you're going to use at $25 a tissue box.
Right. So,
I don't have insurance. So when I'm diabetic, and when I go for my, every couple months for my, get some blood work, I'm paying it all out of my pocket. But when you tell them that you're self-pay, you get like a 30% discount right off the top.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so I was going to this major place in Chicago that's a rehab institute, but I can't say them specifically, but it's a rehab institute in Chicago. Backwards. And we were giving, we used to do, because I was the board member of a Spinal Cord Injury Association, so we would do continuing education on spinal cord injuries and assistive technologies that you could use, and that's when I would come in. And so we have this chair, and it's a stand-up chair, so if you can exert 4 pounds of pressure from your upper extremities, you could stand up on your own power with like 5 pumps on this wheelchair. And the head guy comes over to me and goes, "Why would you want to stand?" I said, "What the fuck did you just say?" I'm like, "Dude, did you not know the 10 fucking benefits of standing, this, that, and the other, da-da-da?" And so he's like, "Okay, well, we're interested in all your products, this, that, and the other, da-da-da." He goes, "We want to, carry your wheelchair, but every time we run a script, we want $3,800 kickback."
Wow.
He says it in front of the whole fucking place, right?
Damn.
And this is like the product line was waiting 20 years to get in this place, and I did it with like a couple of phone calls, got in, and they were like, "What?" And I go to the head guy, I'm like, "Dude, fuck you in front of the whole
Right.
fucking place. Are you kidding me?
3,800.
Yeah. So that's how I learned that the healthcare system wasn't what it's supposed to be, you know. What say you, Ted? You've had your share of medical incidents, for sure.
Yeah, that's you.
Right on. Okay, so go ahead.
What you want my medical history? Is that what you're asking?
Well, no. I said, what's your opinion of let's say public medicine versus VA? Because when you get hurt, you have to go to the closest place.
Well, I've got issues with the VA. Number one, it's not the individual hospital or units. It's the system.
Right.
Underfunded for the number of veterans we have with the serious injuries or things that come upon you from age or because you age differently because of your combat and so on.
Right.
Now, where I am here, I go to a private sector ophthalmologist. I go to a private sector audiologist. And they treat me just as though I was paying top dollar.
Right.
And they're actually quite better than the service that I got inside the VA. Now, in Los Angeles, I had that fantastic primary care doctor, and she made sure she had a lot of clout in the system, in the whole system, not just the hospital.
Yeah.
And I got excellent care from her and whoever she assigned me to for whatever clinic.
Yeah.
So I have no complaints in Los Angeles. Now, here, the main facility is Hampton Roads. It's about an hour away or so. And there's a couple local clinic-type places. But this one at Hampton, you go up there for a prescription. Okay, you check in, and I used to have to go for blood work every couple of weeks because I have blood thinners. And I go in and I get my blood tests. Okay, you sign in, you get in a line, and then you sit for an hour and wait for your turn to get blood drawn. Then you go over to the pharmacy. You report to the pharmacist. They say, okay, they prescribe the medication. Yes, I've taken it for like the last 20 years. And then you go, okay. And then you go sit down and wait for them to process your prescription. And an hour or so goes by. Then
Uh-oh.
Oh, shit,
we
we
lost
him?
You there, Vince?
Yeah, hold on. I was taking a pee, of course.
okay.
Hi, does your car need a new warranty? Hey, Ted. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. You go up, like I was saying, you go up for blood work, you get in line, then you wait for your turn to go in and get blood taken. Then you go over to the pharmacy, you talk to the pharmacist, you have to wait in line, you have to take a number to get into him. So that's like a half an hour to an hour. Then they say, okay, and they describe the medication you've been doing for 10 years. And you go get in another line, and you see your name come up, or not another line, you go sit in the lobby, you see your name come up on the board, then you get into a line again to get your prescription. You'll spend between driving and going through all the lines and waiting, I spend a whole fucking day to have a couple of tubes of blood drawn and to pick up a prescription.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just so understaffed. You know, it's not the individual institute; it's the entire program.
Yeah, like I can give you an example from a provider aspect. So we get this phone call. Hey, we got this guy. You need to go over there right now. to measure his place. We don't want him staying in the new spinal ward, in the spinal ward center in Chicago. And so we need you to come out here immediately. The guy had money. So I go over to immediately, and basically, Ted, what I did, the main line that I carried was if you're in a wheelchair, I could pick you up by your armpits like a baby. And that's not a diminutive. And I could track you through your house, put you on the toilet, put you in the tub, put you in your bed, etc. Also get you in and out of a pool or onto a horse, that kind of shit. And so I go over there and do that, because what people don't understand, if you have a skin ulcer, if you are a para or a quad, one of the most dangerous things to get is a skin ulcer. And it costs $300,000 a month to treat. $300,000 per month to treat a skin ulcer. Right.
Why?
I don't know, because that's what they price it out as. That's what we know as a provider. We know that, it's X amount per day, da-da-da-da-da. So what you have to do, and we also had these, we also sold mattresses that roll you so you don't get the skin ulcer. So all this was a package. If we get people out quick, we can provide a faster healing situation all around, because once you're independent, you're feeling great. Mental positivity, 80% of the game. You're in it, and you start working on the benefit of yourself. And so we go out and do this, boom, and then nothing. For 90 days. They said I had to get over there that day. And I did, because I'm in it to help people. And they're like, it's an emergency, you need to go there, right, 90 days. Because an administrator overlooked the paperwork, and it cost $900,000 to treat that guy when he could have been home.
Jeez.
I mean, that's just one case. You know what I mean?
Right.
So people don't understand when they talk about it. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, here's just this one guy hanging out in his room in the spinal center because it was an emergency, and then they didn't think it was an emergency after he gave him the price. Just weird. And we didn't overcharge. We weren't looking to get rich. We were there to help people, but we wanted to make a living. But just very bizarre, And
Yeah, 900,000. I could take like 3 clients and retire.
yeah, it's unbelievable. So if you multiply that, just imagine, and that's when Hines VA in Chicago, which is the place I'm talking about, was under investigation, and they were sending back, I think it was like 600,000 guys from Germany, and they had to disperse them to everywhere else other than the VA, basically, in Chicago. So Schwab, Chicago Rehab Institute, all these other people were getting the people coming back, because the VA has had some problems. And I just don't understand if we're sending people into war, the number one cost is the actual cost of war, not the stuff that you pay companies. It's the human cost. So, how does that figure into the whole PTSD situation for veterans, Ted?
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of veterans have committed suicide because they can't get the help.
22 per day.
That's multiple reasons, but I'm just specifically speaking of they can't get the medical. Now, I don't mean psychological necessarily. I'm talking medical help. It's going to be X number of days, or they're in pain, or whatever. And give you another example. Okay, I've had some issues, and I'm right next to a naval hospital. It's one of the finest in the country.
So if I have an issue, I go to the emergency room over there. Well, used to be a couple of years ago, you go over there, you're a vet, I'm 100%, so I have the right to go into any local hospital, the closest hospital I want,
Okay.
to get treated. And you tell them when you go in, you're a vet, blah, blah, blah. And then once they stabilize you, they would notify the VA, tell them the condition and everything, and then they would decide, the VA would decide, should they keep you or should they send an ambulance to pick you up? It was their prerogative. That was great because it was 50 miles away. They're not going to send a fucking ambulance. Because I didn't want to go up there anyway.
Right.
But then they changed it and didn't tell the veterans that they changed it. And so now it's gone through a couple of changes through the Trump administration that were not good for the veterans. And I'm not saying because it was Trump, it's just this is the reality of it. It was Trump.
Sure.
Right? And now I go to the emergency room, I have to call a certain number, and then they approve my visit. If not, I get billed. I am being billed right now for like 20-something, 30-something $1,000. And I go to a military hospital, and I'm 100% disabled. So you show me the logic in that.
Right. Don't bring logic into this. We're not into logic. We're America.
I'm sorry.
I said, don't bring logic into this. This is America. We don't believe in logic.
I heard that.
Right? Yeah. So I got billed for like $35,000 for my hospital stay with the Corona-19 at the time. And so I'm like, look, you sent all my shit to CDC, this is that, blah, blah, blah. All the cases that come out later have proved to be the same thing I went through, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, dude, you get 3 times the amount you'll get from me. And yeah, $600 is what I paid. But, I'm like, hey, I didn't, but still, I mean, you're in the hospital for a few days, man. That can, it's unfortunate that it can ruin you and it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Each side looks at the other and grabs their pearls, and both of them screwed you. So I don't understand, I don't know. I just think there's room for other things to happen because the two that are there have failed.
Right.
Where's our anti-war?
No.
Where's our anti-war? Where's our health care for everybody? Where's that? But
Yeah.
What do I know? I'm just a jagoff from fucking Chicago.
The big problem with that is when they're budgeting a war, they don't budget the veterans that they're going to have to treat afterwards.
Right, that should be line item number 1. You know what I mean? It's the immediate cost to a war.
Exactly, it's inevitable. It's going to be like planes will get shot down. You'll have to replace them. Okay, veterans are going to get fucked up. You have to fix them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, and I don't understand the repeated failure, no matter who's in office, to make sure that, these men and women are properly taken care of.
Right.
And I don't know how to fix it, But the question should be out there on how do we do better.
Yeah. And then during the last administration, too, they were talking about privatizing the VA, like they're going to privatize the Postal Service.
Yeah, no.
That's the biggest. The
Right.
VA,
No, I agree.
when they can't handle like need for audiology or ophthalmology, so they send me out to a private firm. They negotiate lower prices, and that gets taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good. That's the way. Instead of privatization, they should stop trying to overbook the VA and start booking more out in the public sector, but keeping the VA intact. Because the VA, with their experiences and everything, they understand soldiers a lot better than anybody else.
Sure. Absolutely.
But for incidental, like eye care, health, audiology, all that stuff, you can send them out. But,
right.
It's all okay.
Oh, absolutely. And like for instance, there's this. Ted, you there?
Yeah.
There was this. There was this one case, and basically this. Okay, so this guy came back from Afghanistan, roadside IUD, blew off both his legs, his right extremity, and his left was in danger of being lost. And if he wasn't moved from the VA to the other health facility in Chicago, he would basically die. So there was a time limit. And because it was just getting, when you have a multiple situational medical health I don't know how to explain it better because I've had a couple glasses of wine. So you have all this stuff going on, and it's very important to have the best care at the time, in the moment, and politics in the hospital, throughout the hospital, state versus federal, it shouldn't matter, okay? So a lot of times that gets in the way of someone getting treated correctly. So we had two people working for the Daily Herald, reporters going after this guy. Gary Sinise was working to try to get this guy moved. I'm working on trying to get this guy moved. All this stuff was going on. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got like fucking 12 hours left. Or if he stays there, because the doctor was like, oh, we have the same, the same level of care that we do if you send him over to XYZ. I don't want to name the medical facility. So,
Right.
And everyone's like, well, no, that's total fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, no. So, anyway, so all this is going on. No one can get him moved. The doctor is standing firm like he's God. And so I'm like, who do we call? Like, oh my God. And time's running out. I'm like, I remember like a David Letterman show, and this guy who was on said he always kept his number listed publicly. So I dial 411. I'm like, Bob Dole, Washington, D.C. Right? Okay. Patrick Bink. I call him. I'm like, I hear, hello. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, Senator Dole? He goes, yeah, what can I do you for? I'm like, no fucking way. Right? I'm like, no way. So I'm like, hey, man, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And this is right when the World War II thing was going up. And he's like, well, I don't have any more time to deal with any more cases. I'm like, sir, if you don't address this within the next 3 hours and the transfer time, blah, 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 he could possibly die. He's like, okay, here's the number. Send all the shit to my assistant. So I did, and he got moved. And basically, so now he's one of the people you see with the Gary Sinise Foundation in all their PR stuff. So they're doing some great stuff, and they're also funding programs that work with PTSD for veterans. So that should, Gary Sinise is a good dude. He does a lot of stuff. Ted, you there? Oh, all right. Let's see. Let me get one more call with Ted. And hello? Hello? You there?
Yeah.
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
I'm trying to get a hold of somebody for an extended warranty on my car.
Damn it! All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for the evening. Ted, love you, brother. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. We'll have you on once you can promote the stuff that you're doing, because I think it's very important that people get that outlet. And, any last words, Ted, for people dealing with PTSD, whether they think they have it or not?
Call. Make the call. There's somebody that wants to help. And don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. It's normal. For what you've been through, it's normal. It would not be normal if you weren't going through it. So do that. And there is, like I was saying before, it's not a cure, but you can learn to manage it so that it doesn't take your life away from you. Make the call.
Absolutely. Like one of the things that I had to do is, I'm a smart ass online. I dropped my 10 things. I didn't feel funny for a long time. So when I went on, I saw all this negativity and I just couldn't deal with it. And it was weird that should be a thing. It's like everyone seemed so hateful in a time where you think that people would come more together, but maybe that is my own mental thing that I was going through. I have no idea. But
Yeah.
Ted, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Love you, man. Jason, love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
Love you too.
And when things are getting hard and you want to talk about it and you don't think you can always do it through humor. And sit down with your friend, have a drink, give him shit, give him a hug, tell him you love him. There's nothing wrong with it. And at the end of the day, when you cut one loose and it was silent and you can blame it on your best friend, hey, that's just creativity talking. Until next time, guys, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care, brother.
Take care,
All right,
man.
Take care.